So it's been a few months since the latest major DLC has dropped, the Three Kingdoms DLC, which introduced 5 new civilizations to our beloved Age of Empires 2. These civilizations are the Wei, the Wu, the Shu, the Khitans, and the Jurchens. Over the course of the last few months, there's been a few patches that have changed these civilizations, either buffed some of them or nerfed some of them, so I think it's the perfect time to just take a step back and take a look at how good these civilizations are and where they place in the current meta. Alright, starting off our list with what I consider to be the weakest of the 5 new civs, the Jurchens. Now the Jurchens, although being the weakest of the 5, are actually not a bad civ at all. They have really cool applications in the current meta, like they are a very strong scout civ that can go into a really nice cav archer or step lancer follow-up. So as far as like early game mobility and strong cavalry play to control the map, the Jurchens are very strong. On maps like Land Madness, I can see them being a top 5 pick, for example. But on top of that, I think they have a really good, kind of like cheesy rush, the Fire Lancer rocket cart push with a fast castle to just turbo into those gunpowder units. And I think that push specifically is absolutely insane and really hard to stop. I would be surprised if the Jurchens ever fall completely out of the meta, because I think that push specifically always makes them a dangerous option if you can pull it off. Of course, not every map calls for a fast castle rocket cart lancer push, so you're not going to just pick Jurchens everywhere and go for it, but I think it's a very reasonable pick on certain maps, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that strategy being pulled out in the Chinese land event, the Lingyuan Cup. But besides that, the Jurchens also have a really solid late game, so as far as something like, an Arabia goes, I think the Jurchens can play a solid scout rush, followed up with, a decent economy back home, because their sheep and their boar doesn't rot, so if they can get access to like a really nice and clean feudal age, and then they can go into castle age where they can boom up, play some relic control, and just control the game in late game, where they have access to fully upgraded Hussar, heavy CA with nice bonuses, and of course Fire Lancers and Halbs available if they need it. They also get access to Bombard Cannon with Siege Engineers, so the Jurchens feel like a pretty solid civ overall. So I don't think the Jurchens are a broken civ or a bad civ. They're kind of somewhere in the middle with some cool applications if you want to go for it. The Grenadier is also a really cool unit that you could also FC into, or it could serve as a nice backline DPS unit, but besides those options, there's nothing too special for the Jurchens. Let's move on to the next civ. So let's go ahead and visit how the Wu are doing, which is probably the next up on the list in terms of power level. I think the Wu started out really strong, but they've suffered a nerf in the latest patch. They brought their food bonus from docks and military production buildings being built from 65 free food to 55 free food. It's a pretty decent nerf. Like, it's a small nerf, but you feel it. The 10 food definitely is felt, because you usually make a few of these military production buildings in the early game, and so you're down like 30-40 food. But I think the bonus is still good, and the civ itself is still in a really good position. I expect to see the Wu being picked on mostly hybrid maps, because the bonus is usually felt when you're able to make docks in the early game, because docks are only 150 wood, and getting 55 food directly from that ends up being a really nice trade in the early game. And of course, you still build a dock, which is still pretty useful in most cases considering you're playing hybrid maps. But I think the most dangerous part about the Wu is actually the fact that they have access to the Jan Swordsman. The Jan Swordsman is genuinely one of the most broken things in the game right now. It's really strong as a unit and has the potential to completely shut down certain civilizations and even just win games outright in Castle Age. So I feel like the Wu are amazing to just like swarm their opponent in Castle Age with the Jan Swordsman after gaining a nice advantage in the early game. However, I don't think the Wu has the craziest late game or the most amount of options, so I don't think it's like a well-rounded civilization. I feel like it's best in water maps or hybrid maps where you can use some of the early game infantry combined with some of the strong navy plus good economy to overwhelm your opponent and keep the pace of the game high. If you're able to do that, the Wu feel amazing. If you're not able to do that, they feel a bit average, and so I wouldn't pick them on a pure land map most of the time. All right, the next 3 civs are actually all pretty broken. All right, for lack of a better word, I don't want to be the guy that just calls everything overpowered, but looking at the win rates of the next 3 civs, 2 of them have an over 55% win rate across elos, some of which goes at 60% win rate at certain elo brackets, and the other civ is just something that I consider really strong. So start with the one that I consider really strong, even though it's sitting at like a 52-53% win rate, and that is the Wei. The Wei is not broken in terms of win rate, but I think it's an absolutely insane civ at the moment, and definitely one of the best civs in the game as far as land maps go. The Wei get most of their strength from the fact that they get extra villagers from their economy upgrades, but not only that, they also have really strong unique options. Their Xianbei Raider is a better cav archer, and their Tiger Cavalry is absolutely insane. But the best thing about the Wei is the 1 TC play with them. I think if you're going to play way, the best thing you can do is 1 TC. You get all your eco upgrades. You're up to something like 5 to 8 villagers in the early game. In like feudal age to castle age, you have like 8 villagers, and then you just go 1 TC push. So all of your resources go into putting pressure on your opponent. Your opponent now has 2 options. If he goes 1 TC and tries to match you, he's going to have 8 less villagers, which is a pretty big deal. And if he starts adding in town centers so you can get some villagers going and try to catch up in the villager department and the economy department, you're 1 TCing him. So you're going to have a lot more army and a lot more pressure with really strong, unique options that the Wei can already field. And so you're able to completely overwhelm him if he starts booming when he's not supposed to, when he's not allowed to. So it's really difficult to play into the Wei. You have to kind of like boom to catch up a little bit, but then you also have to defend their really strong units. It can be difficult to find an answer to the Civ, and that's why I think it's one of the best Civs in the game at the moment. I consider it to be pretty much top 5 on any land map, maybe top 10 if you really want to play it safe. I expect to see the Civ quite a bit in the Linguan Cup. Maybe it will be banned here and there, but I think it'll be picked in the draft more often than not. All right, moving on to the second best Civ out of the bunch, the Kitans. They received actually a heavy nerf on the last patch. They completely lost their Dark Age bonus. Their pasture economy was nerfed significantly, but besides that, they still have everything else intact. So the Liao Dao, the unique unit, is insane. Their cavalry play, scouts getting extra attack from all upgrades, heavy CA and castle age, all of their options are just really good at what they do. The Kitans do have a weak-ish late game because they lack bloodlines, so a lot of their cavalry kind of falls off a bit. But their Imperial Age unique tech kind of makes up for it because it gives you healing on the cavalry units, so you can kind of sustain yourself in fights, which is similar to having bloodlines, but it's a bit worse, granted, and you have to pay extra for it. So the Kitans definitely have a weaker late game, but it seems like it doesn't matter because the Civ's win rate's still off the charts, and I think the Civ really feels like unfair to play against in certain cases. If you're able to get your pasture economy going with the Kitans, the Civ feels like kind of insane. Like it just feels broken. It feels unfair to play against. They get so far ahead in terms of food. Their pastures work better than usual farms. They're also cheaper to get going. So the smoothness of the economy is really what makes the Kitans so strong. And of course, having strong options on top of that just makes for a really well versatile and powerful civilization. They also get access to the mounted trebuchet, camel-like treb, but I don't know how good that is. But it is worth mentioning that it's an option. If in case you need it, you can go for it. Maybe some people can cook up a strategy with it. I doubt it though, because it's only available in Imperial Age, and it doesn't feel that good when I play with it. I expect to see Kitans a lot in the Linguan Cup, specifically on land maps where you're able to do a lot of fighting and a lot of economy behind it. I think that's where the Kitans really shine. Consistent fighting, consistent trades, while also booming behind. I don't consider them so overpowered that you can't beat them or that they're like first pick material, but I expect them to be a very, very important part of the current metagame. Moving on to the best Civ of the 5, the Shu, which is really funny because I thought the Shu were horrible upon release. I called them the worst Civ in the game, and I still have that video up on YouTube because I don't hide my mistakes. I wear them like armor or some shit. I don't know. That's a quote that makes you look cool, I think. But anyway, I don't look cool at all. I'm a cringe YouTuber who makes videos about a video game. So anyway, tangent aside, we got the Shu here that are very, very strong in the current meta. They have a 57.5% win rate on 1v1 at the highest elo, which is ridiculous. And you might be thinking, oh, this is probably because of the chariot rush. I've seen Red Phosphorus riding Huang on his shoulders, doing an all-in chariot rush on the rank ladder. I think that there's a really good combo with that rush. Yes, it's a good strategy for sure, but the chariot rush is not what makes the Shu strong. The Shu are actually just a good, honest-to-God civilization that can play a bunch of different strategies. Yes, the chariot rush is amazing. It's a really good strategy, and it could surprise your opponent, but even if you're prepared for the chariot rush, the Shu can play all kinds of standard options. Their archer play is solid. They can open scouts to just set up a decent food economy, switch into archers, or just go into skirms because they still get really good upgrades for their skirms on a discount. So you have like plenty of options that just feel really smooth with the Shu. And I think the best part about them is their death ball in late game. The traction trebs that shoot multiple projectiles and also benefit from siege engineers are insane. 15 range, it's so hard to deal with this unit. There's very few things in the game that actually deal with traction trebuchets. Like, although they're not the best unit at breaking buildings, they're still incredibly strong at hitting units and just putting so much pressure on your opponent in a slow push kind of situation. And lastly, their unique unit is also amazing. The White Feather Guard is such a good unit. This is exactly what I want to see from an infantry unit. It's tanky, it's strong, it has attack bonuses against certain units, and it also slows down enemy units upon hitting them, making for one of the best death balls in the game, being White Feather Guard, traction trebs behind, as well as Arbalest as a backline DPS unit. Arbalest to shoot multiple arrows, the White Feather Guard to tank and to slow, and then the traction trebs to hit buildings and long-range units. Absolutely insane composition, and it makes the Shu a powerhouse in the late game. I consider Shu to be not pick ban in every draft, but I think we're going to see a lot of it in the Linguan Cup, and I think it's going to be definitely one of the Civs of the meta, and definitely something to watch out for, mainly on hybrid maps, but I could see it played on pure water maps as well as land maps. It's pretty well versatile. That's going to do it for the 5 new civs. I think overall they're all really good. Some of them being a bit overpowered, a bit, strong, maybe could use a few more nerfs, but I think for the time being, none of them feel stupidly overpowered at the very least. You can still play into them pretty effectively with, certain other strong civs. And so I'm not too worried one way or another. Let me know how you guys think of these civs. If you guys have been playing them in your own games, let me know in the comments if you guys agree with my analysis here. I'm basing this mostly on win rates and personal opinion, but of course, if you guys have anything to add to the discussion, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.